Today we are discussing the case of a pedo who offed himself in a Texas courtroom. Edward Leclair was a 57-year-old pervert who was convicted of 5 counts of assault on a child between the age of 13 and 17 on August 11, 2022. This would also be the day that Edward Leclair would exit this earth because he was too cowardly to face the consequences of his deplorable actions. Now let me tell you the story. It's a strange one, but to get to the crazy events that happened in that courtroom in Denton County, Texas, I have to start from the beginning.
Some headlines developing this weekend in a wild story out of Denton County. An inmate there died after drinking a mysterious liquid while a verdict was being read by a judge. Edward Leclair from Frisco was on trial for child sexual assault.
It all started in July of 2016 on Craigslist. This criminal case was years in the making. Edward Leclair met his 14-year-old victim when she posted an ad on Craigslist, and he replied to that ad, and a 2-year sexual liaison began. Leclair is a former Navy mechanic and corporate recruiter before losing his job during the pandemic. According to a July 19, 2018 search warrant affidavit, Leclair replied to a Craigslist ad and made arrangements to meet the victim at a hotel where they had sex. And Leclair paid her $200, and then the victim emailed Leclair nude photos. Most of their correspondence were initially done through email and eventually text messages. The illicit affair lasted from July 2016 to mid-2018. After the initial encounter, the victim told Leclair that she was 14 years old. However, this did not deter Leclair from his reprobated actions. He would meet up with the underage victim 3 more times over the course of 2 years. One of these encounters even occurred at Leclair's home in Frisco, Texas. In May of 2019, Leclair's girlfriend, Melody Shea, discovered the communications between Leclair and his victim. The victim claimed that Melanie threatened her, but retracted that statement later while testifying in court. She also said that Melody swore that she would help her and that Leclair was grooming her. Melody agreed to meet the victim at an undisclosed location. Melody picked her up and drove the victim to Leclair's home in Frisco, Texas, where she also lived, which is crazy. An argument ensued when Leclair saw Melody and the victim. Leclair immediately took the victim back to the pickup site where Melody had gotten her. Leclair and Melody both kept in contact with the victim until the Frisco police got involved a month later. Leclair was arrested on July 26, 2018 at 10 a.m. and charges were filed on the 29th, 3 days later. Melody apparently told the victim's parents about what had happened because, according to the Frisco police, the victim's mother called to report that her now 16-year-old daughter had been assaulted. Leclair was transported to Denton County, and his bond was set at $30,000 on a charge of sexual assault on a child. Melody Shea was arrested in July of 2018 for failure to report a felony, but the charges were dropped 2 years later. Leclair bonded out and spent the next 4 years free as the investigation and court case unfolded. Police confirmed that they extracted text messages and emails between Leclair and his victim and Melody and the victim. Leclair's messages were damning. His texts and emails contained arrangements for sex and agreed upon payments with the victim. In February of 2020, Leclair was indicted by a Denton County grand jury on 5 counts of child assault. He pleaded not guilty. The trial began on August 8, 2022, and only lasted a few days. The victim was flown in by the prosecutor to testify. On August 11, while the jury was deliberating, Leclair slipped sodium nitrate into his bottle of water. He bought this water in a vending machine around 7 a.m. in the courthouse. This was recovered on surveillance cameras in the court.
The verdict was guilty, but as it was being read, attorneys say he started chugging from a liquid in a water bottle. Leclair was later taken to his holding cell, and when a bailiff returned to check on him, he was gray in the face and he died shortly after. That water bottle was taken in for evidence.
It took the jurors 3.5 hours to come up with a guilty verdict. When the first guilty charge was read, Leclair started to drink from the bottle. He had not taken a drink from this bottle at all during the trial. As more guilty verdicts were handed down, Leclair began to chug the water. After he received his guilty verdicts, Leclair was transferred to a holding cell next to the courtroom. The prosecutor and Leclair's lawyer noticed that something was really strange, and an investigator had a bailiff go and check on Leclair. At first, everybody just thought this was nervousness because Leclair was facing up to 100 years in prison for his crime, but the way he was chugging that bottle was just so strange, and then also the water was very cloudy. And this prompted people to check on him. And when the bailiff got to the holding cell, Leclair was vomiting and he was gray in color. So, just very, very pale. The bailiff came back to the courtroom and announced, to the judge and everybody there about Leclair's physical state. The jurors had already been dismissed for the day, and it was only like the bailiffs, the lawyers, and the judge. EMS was called immediately. The fire department was dispatched at 2:39 p.m. after receiving a call about an unconscious male. Leclair was taken to Medical City Denton Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 3:21 p.m. on Thursday, August 11, 2022, by the Denton County Medical Examiner. His death was ruled a suicide, with the cause of death being due to toxicity of sodium nitrite. Sodium nitrite is an oxidizing agent and is used as a food preservative. It is used to keep the pinkish color in cured meats, such as salami, ham, hot dogs. Some people die from accidental poisoning from sodium nitrite. It causes low blood pressure and limits the amount of oxygen that can flow to the body. The jurors were perturbed by Leclair's death when they were informed the next day. The attorneys and the judge debated whether to dismiss the charges because Leclair was no longer available for sentencing. The state of Texas does allow for sentencing via absentia, but Leclair's death prevents him from being able to fulfill a life sentence. The conviction still stands even though Leclair is dead. What a coward. He did the crime, but didn't want to pay the price. He was too afraid to face the consequences of his actions. And I'm out.